Welcome back everybody to episode number 5 of the Ask Me Anything series. It's been like 2 weeks since I've done one of these, so there's a lot of new stuff to talk about. I made the post on the community tab a couple of days ago, and as of the time I'm recording this video, there are almost 600 comments on the post, so thank you so much to everybody who went and left a comment. It seems like every interactive video I do now, there's just more and more comments, so I'm really happy that you guys are enjoying these videos because I'm really enjoying making them. Before we get started, if you guys would like to stay connected outside of YouTube, be sure to go follow my social medias like Instagram and Twitter. The links to those will be down below in the description. And most importantly, if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And now let's begin. So the first comment of the video comes from Hatrick Kane, who says, how long can Buffalo's losing streak keep going? They haven't won a game in a full calendar month. Well, right now their losing streak is 16 after losing last night's game to the Pittsburgh Penguins, so they only need to lose one more game to tie the record for the longest losing streak in NHL history and lose 2 more games to break that record. If I had to put money on it, I think they're going to break it. I could easily see this losing streak extending to 20 games and beyond. This Buffalo team is just broken. There really is no rock bottom for them this season. I actually just seen a stat on Twitter courtesy of Top Shelf Hockey. I'm sure some of you are familiar with him. The stat is the Buffalo Sabres have been shut out 7 times this season and they've only won 6 games. So they've been shut out more times than they've won. That is seriously impressive how bad that is. I feel like we're beating a dead horse here when it comes to the Sabres, but I genuinely feel bad for Buffalo Sabres fans. This season literally could not have gone any worse. Moving along now to the next comment from Nicholas G, who, judging by his profile picture, looks to be a Sabres fan. So Nicholas, I hope you're doing okay. The question is, do you think Seattle will have success like how the Golden Knights did when they entered the league? I'm gonna say no. I definitely don't think they're gonna have a season like Vegas did in their inaugural season. I mean, they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. This time around, when it comes to the expansion draft, I feel like GMs are going to be a lot safer than they were in the expansion draft with the Golden Knights. Like, if you just go back and look at the results of the Vegas expansion draft, some of the stuff that went down is pretty insane looking back at it now. Like Florida, for example, they traded Riley Smith to the Golden Knights in order for Vegas to select Jonathan Marchessault in the expansion draft. And look at where those guys are at now and how important they've been to the Golden Knights since their inaugural season. And it's not like they were bad players before the expansion draft either. These were solidified, solid NHL players for Florida. Another example would be the Ducks trading Shea Theodore to Vegas in order for Vegas to select Clayton Stoner. I think they didn't want them to select Josh Manson, and obviously there was no telling how good Shea Theodore would become. Nobody knew he was going to develop into one of the league's very best defensemen. I don't think we're gonna see a lot of moves like that this time around, where a team will trade Seattle a player in order for Seattle not to select a particular player. So pretty much the point I'm getting at is, like I said, I just think GMs are going to be a lot safer this time. Next up, this comment comes from Ryan Adams, who says, when do you think the divisions are gonna go back to what they were pre-COVID? Recently found your channel and loving the content. I appreciate the support, Ryan. I'm gonna say next year I think we'll see the divisions go back to normal. I think that's probably what the NHL is aiming for. However, if maybe things don't get too much better and the NHL doesn't feel like they're ready to just go completely back to normal, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the exact same divisions again next season, just because I think it's working pretty well so far this season. I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been great hockey. It builds rivalries, and also it makes a lot more sense from a traveling standpoint. Instead of a team flying to a city just to play once and then immediately leave, it makes a lot more sense to fly to that city, stay there, and play like a mini 2-3 game series. Even when things go back to normal, I think that is something that we will start to see happen more. Next question comes from Kevin Manzi, who says, should the Islanders go after anyone in particular with Lee out for the whole season? If so, who could you see them getting? I think they probably should. With Lee out the whole season, his cap hit will go on the LTIR, so that's a lot of freed up cap space. I think they should probably make use of it. I feel like Kyle Palmieri might be a guy that could go out and target, considering he is going to be a UFA at the end of the season. So then when Anders Lee is back next season, Palmieri's cap hit will be gone, so it'll be just a pure rental. I think something like that would make a lot of sense for the Islanders, and I don't feel like it would take a whole lot to pry Palmieri away from the Devils, especially considering Palmieri's production is down this season from years past. But if they don't decide to do anything and they just stand pat, I feel like they'll probably still be fine. The Islanders have like a next man up mentality. No matter who is in the lineup, you're gonna get the best out of them. That team just wins. That's just what they do under Barry Trotz. Moving on now from Nicholas Spears, can Grice turn it around with Bernier out with injury? I certainly hope so, but after watching last night's game against Nashville, it doesn't look like it. Thomas Grice was lit up at the start of the game. This season, statistically and analytically, Thomas Grice has been one of, if not the worst goaltenders in the entire NHL. Now, I wouldn't say that is all completely Thomas Grice's fault. Detroit is an awful team. They give him literally no goal support whatsoever, but Thomas Grice isn't really doing himself any favors with his play either. If Bernier misses any crazy extended period of time, then the Red Wings are in pretty rough shape when it comes to goaltending. Speaking of goaltending, from Thomas H, is Jack Campbell the #1 goalie in Toronto, or do you think they let Freddie play it out after his injury? Right now, Jack Campbell is Toronto's starter. I feel like it's as simple as that, even when Freddie does come back from injury. I feel like all you have to do is just compare Campbell's numbers to Freddie's this season. You look at Anderson, he's got a below 900 save percentage in 23 games. His goals against average is creeping up there around 3. And in Jack Campbell's case, well, yes, it is a much smaller sample size, but he did miss a lot of time with injury himself. He's 5-0-0 with a ridiculous 958 save percentage and a 1.18 goals against average. You gotta ride him while he's giving you those type of performances. Jack Campbell is the starting goaltender in Toronto right now. There's no doubt about it, and it should stay that way until Jack Campbell stops playing the way he is. Continuing on now, this comment comes from Dennis Seligson, who says, what are your thoughts on Kaapo Kakko this season? He has struggled with points, but his game looks so much better now than last season. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. He still is not lighting it up offensively by any means. He only has 4 goals and 6 points in 25 games, but if you've been watching the New York Rangers, and even if you just look at his underlying numbers, Kaapo Kakko is playing much better this season than in his rookie season, and that is a good sign. You want to see your young players continuing to get better. He's making much quicker decisions and much smarter decisions with the puck on his stick. He's getting himself involved in the play, as opposed to last season where I feel like he was kind of just out there, not really doing anything. Yes, the offensive numbers are not there yet, but this is an extremely talented player with a ton of skill and a ton of potential. He's gonna be just fine. The offense is gonna come. Moving on now, this comment comes from Sean Williamson, who says, most disappointing team that isn't the Sabres and most surprising team that isn't the Blackhawks. Starting with the most disappointing team that isn't the Sabres, for me it is easily the Philadelphia Flyers, relative to the expectations that I had for them especially. I mean, I predicted them to win the East Division, and they're not even close to that. They're not even in a playoff spot. They're currently sitting 6th in the division with 34 points in 32 games. There's just something off about that team. They haven't gotten good goaltending. Carter Hart is having a miserable season. On top of not getting good goaltending, they have been an awful team defensively. Combine those two things, that's a recipe for disaster. They have gotten absolutely destroyed like twice in the past 2 weeks against the New York Rangers. I think Zibanejad has 2 6-point games against the Philadelphia Flyers this season, which is insane. I bet you he wishes he could play them every night. And in terms of the most surprising team that is not the Chicago Blackhawks, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Wild. They're 21-10-1 in 32 games. They got 43 points, currently sits them 3rd in the West Division, but they're only 2 points back of both Vegas and Colorado, who are tied for 1st. Heading into the season, even with Kaprizov coming in, I didn't think this was going to be a team that would really do any damage or be a threat to like win a division, but they're right in the thick of things in the West right now. Kaprizov has just brought new life to that whole organization, and it's nice to see. They are a really fun team to watch, and to me they've been a big surprise, so I'll go with them. Moving on now, from Tiger58, can Kaprizov receive consideration for the Hart? So continuing to talk about the Wild here for a second, if they do in fact win the West Division and Kaprizov keeps scoring at the pace he's at, keeps playing this well, he's going to get some consideration. I think he'll get some votes. He's not going to win it, but again, if Minnesota does win that division, he's going to get consideration at the very least. Next up, from Chase Meyer, who do you think will end up winning the Vesna? Honorable mentions to Grubauer, Fleury, Hellebuck, Varlamov. They're all having fantastic seasons, but at this point, I would be genuinely surprised if Andrei Vasilevsky does not win the Vesna trophy. He is just having a ridiculous season. He's 21-4-1 with a .932 save percentage, a 1.91 goals against average. He's at the top or near the top of pretty much every advanced analytic when it comes to goaltenders. The Vesna trophy is Andrei Vasilevsky's award to lose right now. The next comment comes from Zaf Hockey, who says most overrated player in the NHL and most underrated player in the NHL. Overrated player, bit of a touchy subject. I'll go with Taylor Hall. I feel like he's viewed as a star winger in the league, and I just don't really think he's that, and I'm guilty of this as well. I mean, heading into the season when Buffalo signed Taylor Hall, I said Jack Eichel finally has a co-star. He's definitely not a bad player. He's much better than the way he's been playing this season. We all know that, but I feel like the fact that he won an MVP back in the 2017-2018 season makes people overrate him a little bit, and let's be honest, that season by Hall is an outlier in his career. He's never had a season that comes anything close to that season he had with the Devils. Now, who do I think is the most underrated player in the league? I'm actually going to go with two players from the same team, defensemen Ryan Pollock and Adam Pelech of the New York Islanders. I don't think either of them get enough credit for how good they are, and the biggest reason for that is because either of them don't really put up a lot of points, but man are they ever important to the Islanders. I mean, look at the end of last season before the stoppage in play when Adam Pelech went down with an injury. The Islanders went on an insane skid, and I don't think the timing of that was a coincidence. This next comment comes from Alex Porter, who says Mark Mathot got obliterated on Twitter after saying the Sens will be better than the Leafs in 3 years. Is he low-key onto something? The Sens obviously have a really bright future, but I feel like this is a bit of a foolish and biased take, obviously because Mark Mathot spent so much of his career in Ottawa. If I personally had to put money on which team I think is going to be better in 3 years, I'm putting all my money on Toronto. I mean, it's not like Toronto's core is old, it's still very young. Moving on to the next comment from Jimothy. Does Seattle pick up Fleury if he's available, even though he's at the tail end of his career? He's been a beast this season. Yes, Fleury has been one of the best goaltenders in the league this season. I don't think Seattle would take him though, just going based off of the fact of he is at the tail end of his career. He's 36 years old. He is set to become an unrestricted free agent at the end of next season, but I mean, if Seattle wants somebody who can really, sell jerseys and put people in the seats, Fleury can do that, and, who knows, maybe they would extend him after his contract is up at the end of next season, so that could happen, I guess, but I just don't really think it will. Next up, this question comes from Harrison, who asks, should the Flames be sellers at the deadline and during the offseason? I think it's time to retool or rebuild. I definitely agree with you in the sense that I feel like the Flames need to retool. I don't think they need to go through like a full-fledged tear it all down rebuild, but they gotta do something. I think it might be time to break up the core of Lindholm, Monahan, and Goudreau, trade one of those big name players. It is just very clearly not working with the group that they have, so I think something definitely has to change, whether that is at or around the trade deadline or in the offseason. And now for the final comment of the video, this one comes from Jeremy Park, who says, within the next 10 years, which teams do you think will be a dynasty? Well, I don't think we're going to see a team win, 4 or 5 cups in a row or anything like that. I feel like a modern day dynasty is like 3 cups in a 5-year span, something like that. So if I had to pick one team that I think could potentially do that, win 3 cups in a 5-year span in the next decade, I feel like I'd have to go with Colorado. That team is just set up so perfectly. They are very good right now, and they're set up as to where that success can be sustainable for a very long time. They got great prospects. Their star defenseman is extremely young in Cale Makar. Their star forward in McKinnon is still relatively young. Rantanen, still relatively young. They're an amazing team right now, and it's going to be that way for a while in my opinion. So that is going to wrap up episode number 5 of the Ask Me Anything series. Like I said at the start, thank you so much to everybody who went and left a comment on the post. I really appreciate all of your support. You guys really make this series what it is, and I'm excited to keep making them throughout the season. If you guys have any video suggestions, stuff you want to see in the near future, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. I'm always open to hearing your guys' ideas. If you did enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is, as always, the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all in the next video.